One thing that helps me out on a lot of transition questions is understanding that these are just fancier ways of saying very common transition words, right? So a good example of this is on the contrary is very much just a fancy way of saying the word but. We know what but means. We use that all the time. So there's nothing weird about this. It's a much more sophisticated way of talking. But let's not let that mess with us. We also have the advantage of recognizing that sometimes there's multiple ways to say the same idea, the same transition kind of relationship. And so in this case, regardless is also a word that means but. And right away, that makes me very skeptical of both of those answer choices. If they mean the same thing, how could one be right and the other wrong? That's not really a good sign. There might be hard questions where slight nuances in these transitions actually matter, but it's very rare. And so for the most part, if you can get good at classifying the transition words into just the four main categories, or at least some simpler versions of what they actually are, then you will be able to notice these kind of overlaps and cross things out. And also when we're going through the sentences, we'll have a much better way of thinking about what's happening. So let's take a look now what's happening in these sentences. Spanish surrealist Oscar Dominguez, like many of his contemporaries, wanted to incorporate elements of chance and randomness in his artistic process. He employed techniques that produced random, unpredictable results, such as decalcomania, which involved pressing a blank canvas onto a paint-covered surface to generate abstract patterns. Okay, so a lot of weird stuff at the end. But like, he wanted to incorporate elements of chance and randomness. I want to say something like, so he employed techniques that produced random, unpredictable results. So now basically I'm like, well, do any of these kind of mean so? In conclusion, kind of does, but with in conclusion, I'm thinking like much bigger, right? Like we've done a bunch of things and then we're concluding what we said. In fact, in conclusion is going to be more of a way to repeat something that we said rather than to kind of add on to what we've said with a new idea. So it's much more a summary than it is a continuation. With this in mind is weird. But like, sure, yeah, with this in mind, thinking about the idea that he wanted randomness and chance, he used a technique that allowed randomness and chance. So it's not something that jumps out as being right away, but kind of knowing that I need a word that means so, I'm like, all right, does with this in mind kind of get that cause and effect across? And yes, I think it does. The cause was that he was thinking about random chances, and then the effect was that he used a technique that allowed for random chance to appear in his paintings. So yeah, there you go. Not every transition word is going to fit nicely into some category. Many of them are weird. You'll only see them on like one random practice question, then never again. But that's okay. We're still trying to think about basic ideas with contrasts like but, cause and effect like so, and others that we'll see in future questions.